Good evening. Welcome to the second evening of bill hearings for the Montgomery County State Delegation for local and bi-county bills that are specific to Montgomery County. I am House Delegation Chair Julie Polakovich Carr. Our Senate Delegation Chair, Senator Ben Cramer, is here, as well as members of the delegation. And tonight we are continuing our local bill hearings and we'll be hearing the bills that have been assigned to two of our local committees. Economic Development Committee will be first, followed by bills assigned to the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. For folks who are watching the live stream and who may be signed up to testify on a bill that is later in the agenda tonight, please know that we will let you into the Zoom room when it gets closer to when your bill will be called. Otherwise, we just ask for folks who are in the Zoom room to just keep yourself muted, please. For our witnesses, there will be a timer. You may or may not be able to see it, but there should be an audible sound when your time is up. And then we just ask you to stay on until everyone on your witness panel has testified, and there will be an opportunity for members of the delegation to ask questions before we dismiss your panel. So I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chair Foley so that she can preside over the two bills that we have assigned to the Economic Development Committee. Chair Foley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good evening, everyone. Our first bill is MC 7-26, Montgomery County Public Schools Local Food Procurement. Before I call on the sponsor, I'm going to ask that we go through the entire sponsor panel, which consists of the sponsor plus three witnesses, and then we'll take questions from the delegation. And then we also have another witness testifying in support. Actually, let's just go through everybody since they're four and everybody's in support, and then we'll take questions. So with that, I'm going to call upon Delegate Charkoudian, who's the sponsor of the bill.
Well, thank you, Chair Foley, Chair Cramer, Chair Polakovich Carr, and colleagues. For the record, Delegate Lori Charkoudian, asking for a favorable report on MC 7-26. So this bill is related to increasing the amount of locally grown food and invasive fish from the Chesapeake Bay in Montgomery County Public School meals. Now, I don't know if I should start by saying this or not, because I'm not sure what this says about me, but this is an issue that I started working on when my son was in first grade as a PTA mom. And my son, by the way, is now a sophomore in college. And it's been disheartening how slow the progress has been in Montgomery County Public Schools. This is one of these things that everybody is in favor of in principle, but it requires a level of structural changes and shifts in the way that procurement is done to really move the needle on getting more local food into MCPS meals. I think we have a panel that's going to talk about all of the reasons that we should be getting more local food in. I think that there's all the health reasons that folks will talk about: fresh food, nutrient-dense food, access and justice in terms of who, sort of an equity question about who gets access to locally grown food, which is higher quality often than stuff that sits in trucks and trains and cans for days and weeks on end. But it also, I would just note, has been assigned to the Economic Development Subcommittee to work on because it has a huge economic development implication for both the Ag Reserve and the county, as well as for the state of Maryland. Now, at the state level, we've made some progress since we created the concept of a certified Maryland farmer and a certified Chesapeake invasive species. Certified fish is the Chesapeake invasive species. And we've changed the procurement processes for Maryland state food procurement, and it has really started to open doors. There's a long way to go for the state, and this is like the prisons and the hospitals and so on. Long way to go for the state, but it's really sort of opened doors for Maryland farmers in ways that we hadn't seen before we set up this structure and the change in procurement at the state level. Because the state procurement, school systems are not under the state procurement, we actually see a real variety in procurement in school systems across the state. And so we have seen some school systems that have been very successful in incorporating significant amounts of locally produced food, grown food and certified fish into their meals, and others like MCPS, who, as best as we can tell, really are sort of lagging. So what this bill does, we spent a lot of time really looking at what the structural issues are. The bill is really a starting point that we hope we'll be building on over time. It starts with requiring a benchmarking. Right now, there is no benchmarking, and when we ask MCPS for this information, they don't seem to have the ability to provide it. And so even establishing the definitions and the benchmark is sort of the first step in the right direction. After the benchmark, the school system is required to set goals annually over the next 10 years, and then engage in a stakeholder engaged process to develop a plan to meet those goals. I'm happy to say that my panel includes several farmers from the Montgomery County, as well as others who support local food systems who stand ready and willing and able to help MCPS once this process gets started. You'll hear more from them about it. I think, I feel sort of torn because it's a relatively modest ask, and yet given how hard it has been to really establish even these baselines and goals and processes to sort of move in this direction, I think this is something that we can do realistically this year. And because it doesn't actually require a particular amount of food to be procured, there's not, as best as I can tell, there's not going to be a budgetary implication for this at this point. But what we will be able to see is, as they set their goals, if there are budgetary requirements in order to meet those goals, we'll have a chance to see what those are and discuss and debate and see if it's possible to identify funding sources for that. So I look forward to hearing from my panel, and then I look forward to any questions that folks might have.
Thank you, Delegate Charkoudian. Now I'll call upon Lorian McCauley.
Sure. Thank you very much, delegates. It truly is a pleasure to speak to you tonight. My name is Dr. Lauren McCauley, Agricultural and Sustainability Specialist at the Montgomery County Food Council, where we work every day towards a vibrant and equitable food system. So I'm here to express our support of Maryland 726. And our support, just as a note, was weighed carefully by our policy committee of stakeholders who represent different sectors across the food system. Throughout the past 2 years, through a USDA Farm to School Planning Grant, the Food Council has collaborated with MCPS Food and Nutrition Office to understand how to increase local food purchases. Through this work, we talked to farmers, distributors, toured facilities, consulted our stakeholder networks, and through it all, we learned that while very real barriers do exist to farm to school, MCPS is deeply committed to farm to school. So we support this bill as written and do believe in MCPS's capacity to comply. That said, we recognize that long-term progress requires long-term problem solving. So as a note, we've learned that collecting and collating local purchasing data would necessarily require additional staff time for MCPS FNS, and that part of the burden of meeting the data requirements will fall to distributors. So deriving that needed data may present challenges. We wanted to note that including other school districts statewide in the provisions of the bill would increase the likelihood of obtaining that data from suppliers and create real momentum statewide for local procurement at schools across the state. The farming community we work with has expressed great interest in farm to school, and some farms even became GAP certified in Montgomery County so that they can just sell to schools. But these farms would need improved aggregation and distribution infrastructure, as well as lower administrative hurdles to sell a lot of product in MCPS. So considering those points for the future, we believe strongly that this bill can be a first step, as Delegate Charkoudian mentioned, towards greater local food purchasing, and in the spirit of what gets measured gets done. So thank you so much for your continued commitment to food system issues, and just thanks for the opportunity to weigh in and support this bill.
Thank you, Dr. McCauley. And I should have mentioned that Dr. McCauley had 3 minutes. The rest of the other of our 3 witnesses will have 2 minutes. Next is Tom Fokker. It's good to see you again, Tom. And you have 2 minutes, sir. Tom, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you, Chair Foley. I'm the farmer and owner at Sandy Spring Gardens, Ashton, Maryland. We grow a diversity of fresh vegetable crops on 10 acres using regenerative farming practices. We sell our produce at farmers markets, but most of our produce goes to food assistance through local farm to food bank programs led by food assistance charities, Community Farm Share, and Manna Food Center, and others. We've been recognized by the USDA and Montgomery County Green Bank for climate smart agricultural practices. Our produce is always fresher, more flavorful, we believe more nutritious than the food grown far away. For 3 years, we've sold 1 or 2 tons of fresh new potatoes to the Food and Nutrition Division, Montgomery County Public Schools. At the time, there was federal financing to support school purchases of local farm products. The school system made potato salad, served it at summer school programs at 10 elementary schools. They brought the chef and me to one of the schools at lunchtime to share the story of the food. I got to sample the potato salad. It was amazing, and the kids loved it. So I've seen what Montgomery County Public Schools can do with locally grown fresh produce. They can do it, but they don't do it because it's a lot harder than ordering a tractor trailer load of pre-cooked frozen French fries or a tractor trailer load of frozen pizzas. They don't do it because it's cheaper to buy French fries from an industrial processor in Maine than it is to buy fresh whole potatoes from a local farm. It takes a lot more labor and equipment for them to prepare locally grown raw whole potatoes than it does to repack frozen French fries from a bulk carton into single-serve clamshells. So I support the passage of Bill MC 726. I've seen firsthand the potential benefit to the school food program in Montgomery County. I believe serving locally grown food will improve the dietary choices of school children, make a positive impact on their health and on their learning. I also know there are obstacles: efficiency of food preparation and delivery, the cost of procurement, etc. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Heinz Weverink. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Good evening. I wanted to express my absolute support for the bill as a starting point. I agree with Tom that it's a hard road and it's going to take a lot of convincing to get MCPS to turn around. But overall, the bill addresses and produces winners on several different levels. It is beneficial for the students, which is, of course, obviously my concern, and it helps the farmers. It helps that agricultural industry that is a major portion of the state of Maryland. The part I really love the most is the idea of invasive species use, because ultimately, over the long term, that benefits the Chesapeake Bay and the people of Maryland. I'm looking forward to the day that I can go into the cafeteria and, have a green crab cake. I haven't had those yet. But so I'm definitely in support. This is a great starting point, and I think over the next several years, I'm sure Lorig will continue to follow up and add to it and frame out this skeleton as best we all can. The only thing that's lacking in this bill is we are not mandating the use of Old Bay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, not on the sponsor panel, but testifying in support of the bill is Michael Arden from MCEA. Sir, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Arden, and I'm an English teacher at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School. I'm here to speak in support of MC 726, which requires MCPS to track and increase procurement of food from local farms and also Chesapeake invasive species providers. You might wonder what an English teacher is doing testifying about food policy. My 10th grade students this year in English class are learning to choose the best evidence to support a claim, not just the easiest, and how the best claims have multiple pieces of evidence to support it. This bill is an excellent piece of evidence to support Montgomery County's claim that we advocate for local economic growth and also our agricultural sector. What strikes me about the bill is like my own best practices. It asks MCPS to pursue transparency through data and also citing their sources, something very close to my heart. Right now, our students eat lunch without knowing where their food comes from or understanding the impact of those choices that their system makes. This bill changes that. When MCPS publishes data on local food procurement and sets targets, we're teaching students that institutions are accountable, that local action does matter, and that sustainability is not just a vocabulary word on their AP environmental science class wall. The invasive species component is both timely and also creative. Blue catfish and snakeheads are devastating the Chesapeake Bay. Eating them is both ecologically responsible and creates economic opportunity. It's a real-world problem that we're working on. It's the kind of incremental step that I teach my students to use when they're tackling large projects. I also say this as a teacher with years of experience working with the crabbing communities in Dorchester County before moving to Montgomery. They were worried about bay health too. This bill has positive knock-on effects for our entire state, not just Montgomery County. And of course, this bill supports our local farmers and fishermen, people who are part of our community's story. MC 726, it's not just about food procurement, it's about teaching our students that where food comes from matters. I urge you to support MC 726. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll take questions from the delegation. I see that Delegate Kaufman has his hand raised. Before I call on him, let me make the point that I believe Delegate Kaiser also has a question. She's on her phone and she doesn't know how to do the raise hand. So I'm going to call on Delegate Kaufman first and then Delegate Kaiser after that. Go ahead, Delegate.
Yes, Delegate Charkoudian, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
It's a great bill. Congratulations. I sensed, listening to Mr. Farquhar's testimony, that he's a bit frustrated with MCPS. So that made me think that I saw that you had the support of the county executive, but I didn't see anything in the files that Mr. Costas provided us before the hearing from Ms. Ersprung, the school board's lobbyist, as to MCPS's positions. And I was just wondering, does MCPS have a position as best you know, or have you had some conversations with Patty? Could you enlighten us a little bit? And then I have a brief question for Mr. Farquhar, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I did speak with and have continued to speak with MCPS actually over many, many years, as I said. And I did about this bill, and I made some minor adjustments in response to their requests, going from percentage as the metric to dollars spent as the metric. That was a recommendation that they made to me in our conversations. And I think there might have been a few other technical points. It's my understanding that the fact that they haven't filed anything is that they're probably neutral on it, but I hesitate to speak for them. So I would say you would need to check with them directly.
Okay, thank you. And I admire your persistence, first grade through sophomore year of college. Mr. Farquhar, my question for you is, you got cut off, and I wanted to know if you, if in 30 seconds you could summarize what you wanted to finish saying.
I just wanted to finish saying that I have seen MCPS Food and Nutrition Services at work. I love what they do. I love those people. They're dedicated, they're conscientious, they're doing their best. They're trapped in an industrial production system that is designed to produce lowest cost for maximum delivery of meals to all kinds of kids across the county, breakfast, lunch, meals that go home for the weekend. Their mission has expanded dramatically, and they're pushing up against cost. And so I understand they're in a predicament. On the other hand, all of those structures are what prevent local food from going in to our kids at lunchtime at school.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my questions.
Thank you, Delegate. Next, Delegate Ann Kaiser.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm walking my dog. I'll be sitting at the computer soon. Okay, Delegate Charkoudian, my questions are similar to Delegate Kaufman's, because I certainly want to enhance our economic development. I certainly want to help our local farmers. We in District 14 have lots of farms and had the benefit of a great dinner one night at one of our local wineries many years ago, where local farmers provided us food from only in district. It was fantastic. My questions are more procedural in what you were talking about with MCPS. I mean, we have students at over 160 schools. As I understand it from my wonderful visit to the Food and Nutrition Service many years ago, you know, they're make what's being delivered on Tuesday that's being eaten on Wednesdays, and do what you are talking about from the local farmers, would that be enough to satisfy the needs of what we send out to the 160 schools? Is it enough, or are you just talking about certain ingredients that are part of things? So I'm just trying to understand a little bit more about what MCPS has told you over the years as reasons why they don't want to do it, and whether local farmers can produce enough to satisfy all the schools that we have. So long questions, or long for me, but thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So thanks for asking it. There's a bunch of different sort of angles to it. I think that the reality is like that right now, there is no Montgomery County farmer, as far as I know, who could provide sort of all the apples the day before they need to be distributed to every single school in Montgomery County, right? But there could be Montgomery County and Prince George's County and Charles County and somewhere else, aggregated through an aggregation system that the county is in the process of putting together, that could provide the apples for every other week, right? Just based on when they come in, and so that's a possibility. Right now, the school system does have as their policy that the same thing has to go to every school kind of all the time. There's a real question, and in other jurisdictions across the country, one of the ways that you build up the ability to do this is you don't expect the same thing in every school all at once from the farmers. And so because there's no farmer who can, without a guarantee of a market, sort of convert all of their fields to be sufficient broccoli for the entire county, you're sort of in this chicken and egg, forgive the pun, sort of a situation, because without the guaranteed market, they're not going to grow all of that broccoli, but they're not going to grow that broccoli till they have their guaranteed market. And so you have to be able to do some of this incremental work, right? You have to be able to have broccoli in these 5 schools from Tom, while maybe the broccoli in the other schools comes from the West Coast for the first year. And then over time, Tom can do 10 schools, and then you add, someone else's farm. And so I think part of what we're trying to get at is, it is clear that Montgomery County sort of proceeding exactly how they do things right now is not really moving the needle on this. And so part of the idea behind getting the baseline metrics, setting the goals, working with stakeholders to figure out how to sort of move towards that goals, so that you can open up the possibility of the kind of incremental things that would have to change in order to have the sort of positive, iterative progress using an aggregator that the county is in the process of building, as well as using the goals. The certified farmers is not just Montgomery County, although of course in Montgomery County we want to prioritize Montgomery County farmers, but we do have the ability to use the whole state and really build on what's happening in the state's procurement of certified farms, from across the state as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Kaiser. Thank you, Delegate Charkoudian. Are there any other questions for this panel? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing on MC 7-26. Next, we will move to MC 17-26, Community Choice Aggregation Pilot Program alterations. And I will again call on Delegate Charkoudian.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, again, Delegate Lorig Charkoudian here, asking for a favorable report on MC 17-26, not to be confused with 7-26, which we just discussed. So many of you were here in the previous session, and you might recall that this delegation worked very hard to pass Community Choice Aggregation Pilot. Community choice aggregation is a process through which a county or a municipality has the ability to aggregate the load of all of their customers, residential, commercial, anyone who doesn't opt out, and go and negotiate and procure electricity on their behalf. It's a process and a path that allows a county, in this case, to negotiate lower cost electricity and also increase the possibility of increasing clean energy, as well as increasing other sorts of energy saving opportunities like demand response and energy efficiency. We worked very hard to pass this as a pilot for Montgomery County. The original bill was for the whole state. The county has had this and continues to have community choice aggregation as a priority because it's a really important step for the county to move the needle on the county's greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. As it turns out, it's actually very timely because, of course, we're facing rising electricity costs and the opportunities within community choice aggregation for the county to be able to negotiate lower prices, but also use some creative tools like demand response to decrease the costs for Montgomery County ratepayers is particularly timely and something that the county wants to continue to explore. So what happened was we passed the bill in 2021 in the General Assembly, and it started the process of the Public Service Commission writing regulations. Unfortunately, the process at the Public Service Commission took significantly longer than expected. And so it wasn't until just this fall that we had the regulations, and then the county council passed this county level legislation to be able to move forward with community choice aggregation. Because the original bill was a 7-year pilot, it had a bunch of deadlines in it. I won't bore you with all the deadlines, but because we sort of started 2 years later than expected, what this bill does is it just moves some of the dates. And so it moves originally the pilots were supposed to start by April of 26 and last for 7 years. We're not at all on target for that. And so what the bill does is it extends the required start date by 1 year. It extends the project length by 1 year, and it extends the reporting dates. So essentially, it's the same thing that we all committed to and wanted to get done 4 years ago. But because of the slowed down process, it just makes sure that the county has enough time to actually set it up with the thoroughness that's necessary and allows the pilot to continue for long enough for us to actually see the benefits. I think I have somebody from the county to talk about it from their perspective, and I look forward to any questions folks have after that's done.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. We have 2 people testifying on this bill. First, we'll go to Mr. Stan Edwards. Mr. Edwards, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I won't take 2 minutes. I will defer to my colleague, Garrett Fitzgerald. I'm here to answer questions that any of the members may have. So I will cede my time to Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Next is Garrett Fitzgerald from the Montgomery County Environmental Protection Agency. And Mr. Fitzgerald, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the delegation. It's great to be with you. I'm Garrett Fitzgerald. I serve in the county's Department of Environmental Protection, leading our work on climate programs and state policy. I will be only slightly less brief. I think Delegate Charkoudian did a great job of describing what community choice is, the purpose of this bill, the rationale for why we are here. So I'll just confirm that we are indeed, through this bill, which the county has requested, we're just changing the authorized start date and end date of the pilot so that we'll have the opportunity to run the pilot for the originally intended 7 years. If we don't do this change, it's very likely that we will only be able to deliver power for about 1.5 years before the existing statute says the pilot has to end, which doesn't give us enough time to really understand how well this has worked. We do think there's real potential here to both get to our renewable energy goals as well as protect rates for customers. We think this is just as exciting as it's ever been. We are in no way revisiting the policy. We're just shifting the start and end dates and the dates of the 2 reports, the mid-cycle and final reports, to correspond with that. County executive is in support of the bill. We discovered the need for this only recently, so the county council has not yet had an opportunity to formally take a position on the bill, but they supported the original enabling legislation, and they just recently adopted County Bill 2725, which advances the establishment of the program. So we expect full support there too. We ask for a favorable report, and Stan and I are happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the sponsor or the witnesses on this bill? All right, I don't see any hands raised. Therefore, that concludes the hearing on MC 17-26. And Madam Chair, I believe that concludes the hearing for the bills before the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you so much, Chair Foley, and thank you to all of our witnesses who testified so far this evening. I guess I'll correct what I said earlier. It does look like we're not having a waiting room tonight, so if anyone's on the live stream but anticipated to testify this evening, you are welcome to join us in the Zoom room this evening. So next, we are going to move on to the bills assigned to our second committee for this evening, the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee, and Chair Ziegler is going to be presiding over those bills. Chair Ziegler, let's just, I guess, see. Delegate Wu, are you back with us in the Zoom room? I know he's here, but I'm not sure he's here. All right, Chair Ziegler, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to suggest, why don't we just go ahead and take the first panel of supporters. Colleagues, just for context, this is a reintroduction of a bill that our delegation passed last session, and we'll hear from Delegate Wu, the bill sponsor, I think shortly after this first panel of witnesses, but this is the bill that had to do with mandated school holidays for students. But Chair Ziegler, I will turn it over to you now.
Great, thank you so much. So we have 3 panels in support tonight. I'm going to start with the first witness, Ella Wan. You have 2 minutes.
Awesome. Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the delegation. My name is Ella Wan, and I attend Richard Montgomery High School. I'm here today as a Montgomery County student urging for a favorable report of MC 926, or the Mandatory School Holidays Bill. Montgomery County is one of the most diverse counties in the nation. About 73% of MCPS students identify as non-white, and tens of thousands observe cultural or religious holidays that don't currently align with our school calendar. When those holidays fall on weekdays, students are put in an unfair position. According to MCPS's own attendance data, some schools see absence spikes of 15 to 30% on major observances that are not recognized as days off. That is not a small number. Those are real students missing instruction, assessments, and learning opportunities simply because the calendar does not reflect the communities it serves. I've lived that tug of war myself. I celebrate Lunar New Year with my family every single year. It's one of the few days when all of us slow down and honor traditions that have been passed down for generations. But every time it lands on a school day, even when I do celebrate, a part of me is stressed about the work I'll have to make up the next day.
Ms. Wu, I'm sorry, I have to stop you because we have a lot of other witnesses, but thank you so much. Great job. Next, I'm going to call Thomas Wu.
Yep. All right, I'll start now. Good evening, delegates of Maryland. I'm here today to speak as a student from Winston Churchill High School about my support for the MC 9-26 bill. Like Ella was saying, MCPS is a very diverse place, and it benefits from that diversity. Our schools are strengthened by the different cultures of students and teachers, and it's something we take great pride in. For this reason, I believe that we should be doing more to make sure that the diverse communities that make up MCPS are recognized and feel seen. A great way to support the Asian community specifically would be able to give students and teachers the day off on the first day of the Lunar New Year. Like many students in MCPS, I was part of the Chinese Immersion program, and I've continued to take Chinese classes through high school. I've watched over the years as we've had in-school celebrations, and while they've been important memories, they don't carry the same weight as the real thing. Lunar New Year is a tradition where families reunite, have a meal together, give gifts, and sometimes visit the graves of family members to pay their respects. I think I share the same frustration as a lot of members of the Chinese American community that students and teachers can't stay at least one day home to celebrate with their families and relatives, some of whom may be flying from overseas to come visit. Celebrating this holiday is very special for us. It's a way for us to essentially honor our cultural heritage and identity. For many of us, it's one of the few times during the entire year that our entire extended family comes together to celebrate, which simply isn't feasible when half of the day is either spent at school or worrying about anything we're missing at school. I support this bill because giving MCPS schools the day off on Lunar New Year in the future would help to honor the traditions of thousands of Chinese Americans, for whom Lunar New Year is the most important holiday of the entire year. Thanks for your time. I'll see the rest of it.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Ioannis Alexmuko, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name.
You're fine. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Joanna Alexmuko, and I'm also a high school student in Montgomery County, speaking on behalf of Montgomery County Students for Change, which is a student-led organization committed to social equity, student safety, and justice. And I rise today in strong support of MC 926. As a student in Montgomery County, I firsthand have seen how not having holiday days on days where other people have observances have affected people. For example, myself, who celebrate a bunch of holidays that are more so cultural, I have come back to school and seen piles of work left for me to do, and I've had to miss lessons and do makeup tests and just put myself through a lot of stress to be able to finish these assignments. And I know if we give students that day off, it would immensely help them. Montgomery County, as we know, is a big county and is very diverse, as it's one of the most diverse ones in the nation, with over 75% of MCPS students being students of color, representing more than 160 languages and dozens of cultures and religious traditions. Our calendar does not reflect that demographic at all. As I know, I've seen multiple of my friends miss school for different observances like Diwali and also Lunar New Year, as the past two witnesses have said. So I think it's very important that we make sure that these major holidays have a day off so these students don't have to come back to a bunch of work to do. Our calendar already respects some major holidays, so this bill will ensure that all students receive that same dignity. Recognizing those holidays is not just a scheduling matter, it's a message about belonging. In closing, no child should be forced to choose between their education and their faith or culture. By supporting this legislation, you affirm that students deserve the chance to celebrate meaningful moments with their loved ones. So I think it's very important, and I hope you guys make a favorable report for Bill MC 926. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Next, we will have Shaylin Alvarenga Zometa, and then we will hear from our bill sponsor and have a chance to ask questions. Shaylin?
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Shaylin Alvarenga Zometa, and I am a high school student at Watkins Mill, speaking on behalf of Montgomery County Students for Change, student-led organization committed to social equity, student safety, and justice. We rise today in strong support of MC 926. MoCo Students for Change supports this bill because we see firsthand the impacts of not recognizing these holidays. When students miss school to celebrate, they return to makeup tests, missed lessons, and piles of assignments. Even those who come to school are often overwhelmed with academic stress, preventing them from truly observing the holidays with their families. I have noticed this firsthand as students who celebrate Diwali miss school because they are celebrating with their families and have so much work to make up the next day. A day meant for joy and connection instead becomes stressful and isolating. No student should have to sacrifice their education to honor their culture. Without worrying about tests, assignments, or falling behind, life outside of school shapes who students are, and honoring that balance is essential. On behalf of Montgomery County Students for Change, we respectfully urge you to support MC 926 and give this bill a favorable report. Thank you for your time and for your commitment to the students of Montgomery County.
Thank you. And now I'm going to call on Delegate Wu to present the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate it. Sorry for that. Madam Chair, members of the delegation, this is Delegate Chao from District 9A. I would say, oh my gosh, those students made a great speech. I really feel the same energy from them. So I'm really pleased to reintroduce this legislation, MC 926, which will take effect next year. And the bill ensures that Montgomery County public school system will be close to our students in observance of Diwali, Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, Lunar New Year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Juneteenth, when these holidays fall on the weekdays during the school year. This proposal is identical to last year's HB 1169, which was approved by the delegation and passed by the House of Delegates. Due to some timing issue, it did not get through the Senate side, unfortunately. This bill is to codify the practice with the Montgomery County Public School calendar. According to the staff of our Montgomery County Board of Education, the bill is also consistent with the planning underway for the next school year. During last year's discussion, the final bill was amended to include Juneteenth to the list. Originally, I thought we didn't need it since it was a federal holiday and the school will take that day off automatically. However, this year when I saw the president attacking the Juneteenth related to the national park and many other attacks on the diversity and inclusion environment in our society, I really appreciate Delegate Crutchfield and our education subcommittee for this amendment. Thank you very much for your foresight. We hold our pride and respect that we have such a diverse community. I believe this update on the existing calendar reflects Montgomery County's long-standing commitment to honoring the culture and the religious diversity of our residents. Codifying this practice in statute will promote consistency and predictability for our future school calendar. I truly appreciate our colleagues' continued support for the next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate Wu. And now we can take questions from delegates, if anyone has questions. See any hands at the moment? Seeing none at the moment, I'm going to call the second panel, Mr. Paul Wang.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I can start my time now. Good evening, delegates of Maryland. I'm a senior at Winston Churchill High School, and I'm here to support the MC 926 bill. Let's get straight to the point. Some holidays teach students about history, but others make history possible. Veterans Day belongs in the second category, yet in Montgomery County, it is often treated like an ordinary school day. Veterans Day is a widely celebrated holiday honoring all the men and women who have served our nation and should be recognized with a mandatory school closure. To begin, the service of veterans is what upholds America's unique traditions and protects our country's economic and democratic systems that we as citizens often take as granted. In that sense, it is because of their contributions that we can even celebrate holidays like Labor Day, participate in democratic elections, and practice religious and cultural traditions freely. Moreover, recognizing Veterans Day with a school closure is also a matter of consistency. MCPS closes schools on election days, showing that it is completely feasible to align the calendar with civic priorities. It recognizes Memorial Day, but not Veterans Day, implicitly prioritizing deceased veterans over living ones, despite both being equally as valuable. This inconsistent policy creates a hierarchy of traditions, as some traditions get sidelined over others, sending the message that veterans' contributions are less valued in Montgomery County. I've personally heard many stories about how this has left children of veterans feeling marginalized. Additionally, giving Veterans Day a school closure will allow the holiday's meaning to be experienced and not just taught in the classroom. MCPS has repeatedly said that it supports veterans, but that support is meaningless if the district cannot even align its calendar with that value. Honoring service should not be controversial, and the very fact that the debate exists shows just how widely Veterans Day is valued within the MCPS community, as well as a bunch of other cultural holidays as well. Overall, Veterans Day is not just another day in the calendar. Recognizing it with the school closure does not take a step backward in education. It's a step forward in honoring the nation's history, teaching civic responsibility, and strengthening our veteran community. And for all these reasons, I urge you to support the MC 926 bill today.
Thank you. Next, we have Jaequin Ding. And again, if I've mispronounced your name, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Delegate. Okay, I'll start. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jason Dean. I'm a senior at Winston Churchill High School, the president of the Chinese Honor Society and a first-gen immigrant. Montgomery County Public School is one of the most diverse school districts in the states, with over 16,000 students who speak more than 160 languages and come from many different culture, religious, and family backgrounds. That diversity is one of our greatest strengths, but isn't always reflected in our school calendar. For students like me, holidays such as Lunar New Year, Eid, and Yom Kippur aren't just day-offs. They are moments when families come together, traditions are passed down, and culture is preserved. Yet every year, many students are forced to choose between coming to school or fully being with their families on days that truly matter to them. That's a choice no students shall have to make. I have personally worried about missing quizzes or falling behind just to celebrate Lunar New Year with my family. I also seen friends face the same pressure doing Eid or Yom Kippur. And even when students come to school on these days, many are tired, distracted, or missing classmates and teachers. Learning isn't the same, and the school days losses isn't effectiveness. This proposal isn't about adding more days off. It's about recognizing the reality of who makes up MCPS and make our school more fair and inclusive. Closing schools on widely observed holidays sends a clear message to students. Your culture matters and you belong here. I would also like to sincerely thank Delegate Wu for supporting this bill and for standing up for students and family across Montgomery County. Thank you for listening and for considering a student voice like mine.
Thank you. Next, we have Eden Shaw with Speak to Youth Advocacy.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and members of the delegation. My name is Eden Shaw, and I am a junior attending Winston Churchill High School, where I serve as Student Government Association School Vice President, and I'm speaking on behalf of Speak to Youth Advocacy, an international student-led organization based here in Maryland, dedicated to teaching middle and elementary school students advocacy skills. I am here today to express my support for the MC 926, or Mandatory Holidays Bill. As a Jewish student, I celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and Passover, a major holiday, all holidays included in this bill. These holidays provide meaningful time for students to connect with their cultures, spend time with family, and participate in their faith. I have had to miss school for these holidays on several occasions. Despite Rosh Hashanah occurring over 2 days, in Montgomery County, students only have the first day off from school. I believe that it is unethical to make kids choose between faith and schooling, especially considering that many students are obligated to attend religious services and family gatherings. For anxious students who are passionate about learning, like myself, missing school actually subtracts from the holiday. I have been next to friends and family in services and caught myself thinking about the school assignments and assessments that I would need to make up later on, rather than being mentally present in a celebration. Delegates, 56% of students within MCPS identify with the religious faith. It is imperative to support our students' beliefs while prioritizing their education. My ask is that the members of this delegation pass the MC 926 Mandatory Holidays Bill to support students like me who don't want to have to choose between education and faith. Thank you, and I defer my time to the chair.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Wei Hu.
Hi, thank you. My name is Wei Hu, and I am the parent of a student at Kevin Jiang Middle School. I'm here to voice my strong support for making the Chinese Spring Festival an official MCPS school holiday. For many Asian families, that's about 15% of the county's population, the Spring Festival is the most meaningful holiday of the year. My family prepares special food and cleans the house for good luck and shares wishes for the new year. These traditions help my child feel connected to our cultural heritage and understand the values passed down from their grandparents. Many schools already teach about Lunar New Year, which helps students appreciate our county's diversity. But without a day off, children who celebrate the holiday often feel torn between attending school and being with their families. This put unnecessary stress on students and parents. Recognizing the Spring Festival as a school holiday would show that MCPS truly supports diversity, equity, and inclusion. It would validate the experience of thousands of families and send a powerful message that our cultural traditions matter. For these reasons, I respectfully ask you to support this bill, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Hu. We're at the end of this panel, so we have time for questions. I'd like to call on Delegate Cullison.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I want to thank all of the folks who came to speak tonight. On this panel, I had 2 questions. One for Mr. Wang. As I'm looking at the language of this bill, it actually does not include Veterans Day as one of the days that would be included as the mandatory holiday. So my question to you is your suggestion that it be added? That's number 1. Number 2, Ms. Shaw, you spoke to Passover, and Passover is not included in this list as well. So is that also something that you are looking at being amended to this bill?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Ms. Collison. I'm pretty sure from what I read that Veterans Day was in part 3 of the bill. However, if it wasn't part of the bill, I would definitely support amending that into the bill. Moreover, in my speech, I also do talk about how other cultural and religious holidays are also very important things, and days where students can have time off to, study more, relax, and spend time with their family. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw, were you going to speak to Passover, please?
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for your question. You bring up an excellent point. So I would be absolutely in support of amending this bill to include Passover, as it is a major holiday and often one that people travel for. Additionally, I also referenced it as an example because in my faith, I observe many holidays and have had to experience missing school for them. So I just wanted to bring that up as well at the forefront of the discussion. Thank you so much for your inquiry.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. And Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I think that I somehow managed to mix up two witnesses with the last name Ding. And we heard from Jason and actually Shay Schwinn, and I'm probably mispronouncing that too, Ding, was on the third panel. Are you here? And we can start you off at the top of the next one.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here. I think we have the same family name, so that's why.
Exactly. My apologies.
Yeah, right. I appreciate all the supporters' opinion, and I totally agree with them. And besides that, I think one thing we need to mention is actually the Lunar New Year is the most widely celebrated festival in the world. Like I investigated this afternoon, like 20% of the people in the whole planet is celebrating this holiday on that day. So it's very important and carries strong meaning of culture and family union. It's very important for them. And as of Montgomery County, like as I investigated, and also Mr. Hu, okay. 16% of the people in Montgomery County are Asian people. That's a large group. Some schools, as I know, like Wooten High School, there may be like 50% of students are Asian students. So think about like even in shopping mall, in the Montgomery Mall, the Montgomery Mall, you can see those decorations and symbols for quite a long time. People are celebrating. That means a large group of people, as well as a large group of students in the school. They need to be recognized. They have culture, they have tradition to be carried, and they have something very important to do on that day. So I strongly support this MC 926 bill to be passed. I wish. That's my point. Yeah, plus the other supporters' opinion. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Next, we have Shi-Ting Huang. Shi-Ting Huang. Maybe we don't have him anymore. So I will call Grace Luo.
Okay. Okay. I'm here.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Good evening. Okay, sorry. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Grace Liu, and I'm a sophomore at Winston Churchill High School. I'm here to express my support for the MC 926 Mandatory School Holidays Bill. As someone who celebrates Lunar New Year myself and has been part of the Chinese immersion program for the past 5 years, my culture is very important to me. I know firsthand how deeply these cultural holidays matter to families. But when school is still in session, students like me are forced to choose. Do we show up for class or do we show up for our culture and our families? And this experience isn't just unique to me. As one of the most diverse counties across the country, MCPS students celebrate Diwali, Eid, Lunar New Year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Juneteenth. For many students, these holidays matter just as much as Christmas or Thanksgiving. Yet, students are still expected to attend school on the most important days of their culture or religion, and as a result, many of us end up missing meaningful rituals, cutting celebrations short, or sacrificing family time just to stay academically on track. No student should ever feel that their identity must be put aside in order to succeed in school. MCPS aims to create a learning environment that acknowledges and celebrates every student's culture. But when I return from important celebrations such as Lunar New Year's, facing makeup work, missed lessons, and the feeling that my traditions don't carry the same weight as others. By making these holidays official, MCPS will be creating a calendar that genuinely reflects the community that we live in and the diversity that we're proud of. I urge the board to support this bill to move MCPS toward a more inclusive and representative future. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last word in support of this bill, Jeremy Zhang.
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Great. Good evening. My name is Jeremy Zong. I'm an 8th grader from Eastern Middle School, and I'm here today in support of Bill MC 926. I'd like to speak about my experience with Lunar New Year, which is one of the most meaningful holidays in my culture. It's a time of joy and gathering, and it's a time to celebrate with your friends, family, and relatives. And yet, every year, students who celebrate this holiday have to give up this celebration for their education. They find themselves choosing between tradition and academics, a choice that students should never be forced to make. Every single year during Lunar New Year, my classmates and I ask the same question: shouldn't school be off for such an important and widely celebrated holiday? When students miss out on celebrating their heritage because they don't want to miss class, it sends a message that their traditions are not as important. But when we celebrate the diversity of our communities and everybody is able to enjoy their cultural celebrations, it reflects that Montgomery County values every student and their culture is welcomed and celebrated. If students miss school for their traditions, then they risk missing assignments and important information. But when they come to school, they may miss a celebration that connects them to their identity. By aligning our school calendar with these holidays, we create a school environment where every student feels seen and supported, not just in words, but in practice. I urge you to pass this bill and tell every student and every family in Montgomery County that their culture and sense of belonging matters. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I call our opposition witness, I just want to say a big thank you to all the students who showed up to testify tonight. Your civic engagement is wonderful, and you all did a great job. Thank you so much. And now I would like to call Jason Alexander with SEIU Local 500.
Good evening, chairs and honorable members of the Montgomery County delegation. My name is Jason Alexander. I'm a paraeducator with Montgomery County Public Schools and a local 500 member. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of more than 8,500 educational support professionals across MCPS, paraeducators, bus drivers, bus attendants, administrative staff, building service workers, security, and many others who keep our schools running every day. Local 500 deeply respects and celebrates the rich racial, cultural, and religious diversity of Montgomery County. Our members come from every background reflected in this bill. We support inclusion, we support recognition, and we support calendar decisions that uplift everyone. However, we respectfully urge you to reject MC 926 or amend it to address serious shortcomings with the school calendar. For most members, a day when schools are closed and that closure isn't one of the paid federal holidays, that day is a day without pay. No work means no wages, no matter the cause. For example, this school year, there are 19 no work, no pay days. So far, we've had 6 no work, no pay days. Tomorrow will be the 8th payday we've had so far. Of those checks, only 3 checks have been full checks without any work, no pay days. We still have 13 of those days remaining. This bill creates new mandatory school closures without addressing the economic costs for workers and adds even more stress to our lives. This bill does not provide paid holiday protections, supplemental pay, or even a requirement that MCPS develop offsetting work opportunities. We also want to emphasize that calendar decisions are complex and best handled at local bargaining table and the board level, where the interests of students, communities, and workers can be balanced. Imposing state-mandated holidays removes essential flexibility and makes it harder for MCPS and its labor partners to build a calendar that works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Questions from the delegation? Yes, Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is for Mr. Alexander. And I'm a little bit baffled by your testimony. Not questioning it, I just want it to be explained to me. So, is it your testimony that when there is not a federal holiday and the schools are closed, that the paraeducators and the bus drivers and anyone who isn't a teacher or an educator is not paid?
Correct.
Wow. I didn't know that. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Kaufman?
Mr. Alexander, it's good to see you. I was a student at Walter Johnson High School where you're a paraeducator, so it's good to see you and that you're still in the field all these years later. Would you be comfortable with the bill if it was amended to indicate that support professionals must be paid for those holidays?
I think that would be a step that we would encourage, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Cullison?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Alexander, thank you so much for your testimony. I am sympathetic to it. I'm wondering if this issue could be solved by annualizing the salary, of SEIU, so that you don't have these days of no pay. I mean, it's done for the professional employees. Seems to me that it could be done for for SEIU employees as well. Do you agree with me?
I think that gets into complicated economics because we're hourly, so our wages kind of vary more, and it takes money to do that. So I that's not my call, so.
I'm just looking for options, so that we can come to, so that SEIU members are not put at a disadvantage, but that we are able to do these to honor the diversity of our school system. So I think we should work to figure that out. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Wu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Alexander, so I think one question for you is, this will not change the requirement of 180 days for students, right? If they take that day off, they eventually will have a day to make it off. So the overall hours for your union does not change, right? Like
Sorry,
you
what?
still paid, if the students still need to go to school 180 days, that means you eventually were paid by 180 days, right? It's not taking that day off from your paycheck, right?
No, when there is for example, like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, when there's no school in those days and we don't get paid if there's no school, we don't get paid for those days. We get paid for the federal holidays. The other days we don't get paid for.
Yeah, that's my point. Right now, the school taking notice off already, right? This bill is just trying to codify what
I think this bill, it adds one of the other Muslim holidays. I'm pretty sure, because it adds a couple, so it would be adding an additional day, at least one.
Sure, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Wu, I'm afraid that only delegation members are
Okay,
to
no
ask
problem.
questions, but thank you. I apologize. Okay, any further questions from the delegation for MC 926? Seeing none, we will move on to MC 226. And The sponsor, I'm sorry, is Delegate Charkoudian. Montgomery County Board of Education elected members compensation. Delegate Charkoudian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Delegate Lori Charkoudian requesting favorable report on House Bill 2-26. So I'm bringing back a bill related to the compensation of the Montgomery County school board members. As you may recall, we considered this bill last year, and we did have a chance to have a briefing since that time from the Compensation Commission, Montgomery County Public School, the Board of Ed Compensation Commission, which was created by a statute a number of years back. So at this point in time, our board members earn roughly $15,000 a year, $25,000 a year. They work essentially full-time according to the analysis that's been done by the Board of Ed Compensation Commission and according to individual conversations that you might have with any of the members of the board. The number of issues and the amount of oversight that is necessary by this board further adds to the understanding that they really ought to be focused on this full time. So while the vast majority of them will tell you, and the analysis done by the commission will indicate that it is full time, when you look at what it is that we expect from the board, I think the expectations would also suggest that it ought to be full time. So unfortunately, what that means is with this very, very part-time salary, we either are requiring that Board of Ed members are not able to really fulfill their duties and complete all the tasks that are associated with what's necessary for the oversight that is required, or they need to be either independently wealthy, have a partner who is able to cover the costs of their household, or somehow otherwise be able to survive on very low pay. I think I shared last year that that because I was a single parent and the income that I needed to bring into for my household led to me having to delay the timing of when I was able to engage in public service and specifically in becoming a delegate. And so the issue is near and dear to my heart, in addition to being something that I think is critical as we're looking at MCPS and the kind of leadership and oversight that's necessary. It also is important to add to the diversity, the economic diversity of the membership. If we want people with different kinds of economic backgrounds or different kinds of marital or partner status to be able to be members of the board, then we need them to be able to have a salary that allows them to do the job without requiring wealth or a partner. So while the Board of Ed Commission, so the Compensation Commission, suggests a salary in the range of $100,000 to $130,000. What this bill does this year is it sets the Board of Ed member's salary to match state delegates' salary. And so that is, as our salaries go up over time, the Board of Ed salaries would also go up over time. And so it sort of automatically has an indexing. And it sets it to our salaries. It also sets the board president's rate at $10,000 higher than the standard board members. Last year, we had adjusted the SMOB member. Last year we had adopted we had put the bill into place to adjust the SMOB members as a student member of the board's salary, so they could either get the scholarship, which had been in place, or a stipend. And this bill endorses a modest salary adjustment that sets the SMOB's board member as a percentage of the full board member. So I think we have a number of people who are here to testify on this, and then I look forward to taking any questions that folks might have after that.
Thank you, Delegate Chargouti. And we have a 3-member sponsor panel. I'm going to call Dustin Jetter with MCEA.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dustin Jeter, and I'm a high school social studies teacher. I'm also proud to serve as the secretary of the Montgomery County Education Association. I'm here tonight to speak in support of MC 226, which aligns the Board of Education compensation with the General Assembly members. This gives a much needed pay increase to the Board of Education. Right now, our Board of Education earns $25,000 per year, but this bill would increase their pay to $56,000 per year. As a former student member of the Board of Education and the last board member on the Board of Education to serve without any monetary compensation, I do truly understand the amount of work that our Board of Education puts in each and every day. If the job is done correctly, a member of the Board of Education could easily spend 30+ hours per week on board duties, including holding and attending meetings, reviewing hundreds of pages of budget documents, visiting schools, responding to constituent concerns, and all of the above. That's on top of their regular jobs and family responsibilities. As a teacher who's directly impacted by the policies that this board sets, I can tell you that the quality of who sits on our board really matters. When board members are stretched too thin financially, we lose good candidates. When the time commitment creates an economic barrier, we limit our pool to only those who can afford to serve and limit the voices that can be elected to the Board of Education. Right now, too many potential candidates have to ask themselves, can they even afford to run for the position? When compensation is too low, only those who have flexible or high-paying jobs or independent wealth can realistically serve. The current compensation structure has not been meaningfully updated in decades, and meanwhile, the complexity of the role has exploded. We're asking for more from our board than ever before. MC 226 creates a logical, sustainable formula that recognizes the importance of the board service. My students and fellow educators deserve a Board of Education that attracts the most qualified candidates, not just those who can afford to serve. MCEA supports this bill because strong governance leads to better outcomes for educators and students. And we respectfully urge you to support a favorable report on MC 226. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Ricky Ribeiro with BCEE.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Ricky Ribeiro, and I'm with the Black Coalition for Excellence in Education, testifying in support of MC 226. Normally, I would regurgitate a bunch of data points to justify why increased compensation and recognition of the Montgomery County Public Schools Board of Ed as a full-time position is critical. But honestly, if you've seen the most recent report from the Montgomery County Board of Education Compensation Commission, you already know that board members work full-time hours and that the $25,000 per year is not adequate compensation for that level of work. There is a clear need for board members to work full-time, and they have consistently demonstrated a willingness to do so. Adjusting salaries to support full-time work will acknowledge the reality of the job, and significantly, it will create opportunities for community members whose finances have prevented them from considering board positions. And this is most critical for Black representation on the Board of Education, as we are poised to potentially have no Black members on the Board of Education should Brenda Wolf not run for re-election, as is widely rumored, and should Wylia Chase, the only Black candidate currently running, not win her race. Unlike many other communities, giving away our time for free and maintaining our households and well-being is not a luxury for many Black Montgomery County residents. In effect, only people who come from wealth or have married into wealth can afford to take the financial hit that comes with serving on the board. Given that the board is responsible for oversight of a more than $3 billion budget and has been exposed, and the system has been exposed for having numerous serious operational and policy failures, such as the failure to comply with state law with regard to background and CPS checks, several safety and security lapses, costly financial mismanagement, and concerning board policy violations, it's clear that MCPS needs higher quality and more dedicated oversight now more than ever. Increasing the compensation of the Board of Ed to equal that of the General Assembly is merely a first step this body should take to making oversight of our school board a serious, funded, and resourced position that is equitably accessible to the average person and not just the well-resourced, well-connected, and the elite. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Can Graham.
Hello, good evening, delegates and chairwoman. My name is Karen Graham. I'm the chairperson for the Montgomery County Board of Education Compensation Commission. And based on our review, we unanimously decided that the current compensation levels were significantly misaligned with the responsibilities and time required, limiting who can realistically serve potentially discouraging qualified candidates. And I know the delegate mentioned that it was 25,000 for the members, and then it was 29,000 for the president originally. So our recommendations for our report were substantially more than what this bill speaks on. As she mentioned, we were going based on everything that we did because we met for several weeks and we looked at the various Board of Education around the country, and we were like substantially behind. So our recommendation was actually for 100 to 130. I know this is a slight difference, but we're just here because we looked at all, they do a lot of work. So it's like we want to make sure that the compensation matches the work because they dedicate so much time to what they're doing. And we just looked at everything. So this is like a full-time job in addition to everything else that they have going on. So that's our recommendation. A recommendation is basically that the compensation reflects the high level of responsibility required to oversee a rapidly growing, diverse school system and to broaden the pool of candidates able to serve effectively. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll open it for questions. I see Chair Corman's hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Charkoudian, thanks for your perseverance because I spent a lot of time on this 5 or 6 years ago, and a big hangup was the SMOB issue. I was hoping you could explain that a little bit more clearly. I thought you said that the bill had a percentage of the salary. That was a recommendation of the commission. I think there's nothing in here about the SMOB, or you just straighten me out on how it deals with the SMOB.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I did jumble that. I was talking about what the commission had recommended, which is the portion of the salary, which is not what the bill does. So what we did last year is that we said that the SMOB right now, before our bill last year, the SMOB got a scholarship to the University of Maryland, or that amount of money in the scholarship for room and board and tuition. The bill limits, and last year we changed it so that it was either the scholarship or a stipend of that same amount. And the bill limited the stipend by the amount of salary of the rest of the Board of Education. So for example, if tuition and board and room and board at the University of Maryland is $29,000, but board members receive $25,000, the SMOB would not receive more than $25,000. So while the bill doesn't change what the SMOB receives, so it does not take the Compensation Commission's recommendation of a percentage, doesn't change what the SMOB would receive, but because the salary for all the other board members would be increasing, it would increase the cap on what the SMOB would receive. So for example, right now if we passed this and so board members were receiving 65,000, then it would, the SMOB would receive the 29,000 or be eligible for the 29,000 because that's what the University of Maryland cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I'd have to go back and look at how the stipend versus the scholarship work. Would this also have the effect of increasing their stipend?
It would have that effect because the cap that's in the law right now of capping their stipend based on what the other board members receive, that would be higher because what the board members receive would be higher. So the bill actually itself, the bill doesn't touch what the SMOB receives, but because the cap ends up being higher, they would receive a higher amount than they are right this minute.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Charkoudian, thanks for bringing the bill again, and thanks to all of our witnesses. I guess this is a question for you or maybe Ms. Graham, or really anybody that maybe has an answer to it. So I read the Compensation Committee report last year, but I do not remember, and maybe, I don't know if you all have discussed this. Obviously, the salary is one issue, but not having staff that is fully independent from the district itself is in some ways almost more important than the salary, to make sure that board members have, a way to analyze the documents they're getting to provide sort of true oversight of the district. And so I'm just curious if there were any conversations either in the subcommittee last year or among the work that you were doing during the interim around, could we set a budget to allocate additional staff members to the board as well? Or how could we potentially tackle that issue if there's interest in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point, and certainly in my conversations with many people about this issue, that issue came up, and I fully support it. I think I decided to, this has been a challenging issue for many, many years, and so I decided to keep this bill relatively narrow and focused on the compensation issue. But I would welcome the chance to also address the staffing issue, work with you on it, or possibly work on it next year.
Thank you. Yeah, would be happy to work with you on that. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on MC 226. We now are moving on to MC 126, Delegate Kaufman, Montgomery County voting methods.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is an oldie but a goodie, and I just want to say what a tremendous honor it is to serve as your wingman for the Education, Elections, and Housing Committee as your vice chair. Good evening, Chair Ziegler, Chair Plakovich-Carr, and esteemed colleagues. For the record, I'm Delegate Aaron Kaufman representing District 18 in Montgomery County. I'm requesting a favorable report for Montgomery County voting methods 1-26 ranked choice voting. Again, this is just enabling legislation because I know there are opponents, and they will, should this legislation pass, they will have ample opportunity before the county council and county executive to make their case why this shouldn't be done. This is just enabling legislation. But I would like to thank Madam Chair Plakovich-Carr for taking the lead on this issue for several years and now passing the baton to me. This is the third year I have the responsibility of bringing it forward. We really like this bill because the Montgomery County House delegation unanimously passed the bill in 2025, 2024, 2022, 2021, and 2019. This past session, the bill was supported by the Montgomery County Council. Their position is pending, but I imagine they will support it again. And if you read Kathleen Boucher's statement in the files that Mr. Costas sent us, I'm honored that County Executive Elrich is a supporter of the legislation. For those of us who may not remember, the bill would allow the Montgomery County Council to adopt ranked choice voting or approval voting for election of local offices. And so what I wanted to say is that if a candidate does not receive the majority, the candidate that receives the fewest votes is eliminated. Sorry, I lost my place there. Voters who picked the eliminated candidate as their first choice then can have their vote counted for the second choice. The process continues until one candidate has a majority of the vote. However, I do want to make clear that under ranked choice voting, if somebody still wants to just vote for one candidate, they're more than entitled to do so. Opponents of the bill have raised concerns about the process being confusing for voters. However, in a study of ranked choice voting in municipal elections, researchers from the University of Sydney found that RCV did not negatively impact voter turnout. And in my view, RCV doesn't complicate the process for voters. It allows them to better voice their opinions, and voters would be able, like I said, to select just one candidate if they wished. Additionally, Montgomery County would launch an education campaign to ensure all constituents are well informed on how to cast a ranked choice voting or approval ballot before arriving at the ballot box. In 2024, our neighbors in the District of Columbia voted for Initiative 83, or the Make All Votes Count Act of 2024, and implementing ranked choice voting in all presidential, federal, and district elections. In 2025, 52 jurisdictions across 23 states, so that to me indicates it's not too confusing, used ranked choice voting for either local elections, primaries, or federal elections, general elections. RCV is also used statewide in Alaska and Maine for federal elections, and many other municipalities across the country. In fact, Hawaii used RCV in 2025 for special federal elections and special county elections. We can learn from the example set by these states and municipalities when implementing ranked choice voting in Montgomery County. Ranked choice voting forces candidates to better represent all voters. In Montgomery County, primaries often decide the outcome of elections. And candidates often win in crowded primaries. For example, Madam Chair, in Montgomery County a few years ago, we had 33 candidates for 4 at-large seats. But candidates often win in crowded primaries, as I indicated, without forming a majority, and then go on to win in uncontested or nominally contested general elections without ever receiving a true mandate. RCV makes it impossible to be elected without a majority of voters, forcing candidates to build consensus and better reflect the will of the people, and also campaign positively about their opponents because they want somebody to make them their second choice. RCV is catching on across the country because it allows people to better voice their opinions. I therefore ask for a favorable report of Montgomery County voting methods, MC 126. And I also want to thank my legislative aide, Donna, who is on the line tonight, for helping me craft this testimony. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Delegate Kaufman. We have 2 panels in support and 1 in opposition. I'm going to start with Michelle Whitaker from RCV Maryland.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Michelle Whitaker. I'm the Executive Director for Ranked Choice Voting Maryland, and also a proud Montgomery County resident living in Kensington. I want to just thank Delegate Kaufman, who is my delegate in D18, for putting forward this bill. On behalf of all of the advocates in the RCV Maryland Coalition, we express our full support behind MC 126, Montgomery County voting methods. We're really proud of the work that Delegate Kaufman and the bill co-sponsors have done, and their continued leadership in efforts to improve our elections for all voters. I've come before this delegation before, and Delegate Kaufman read off the many times that we have introduced similar bills with the support of the delegation, and we hope that you will move forward with your unanimous support in 2026 for this piece of legislation. This bill is an important step forward. As Delegate Kaufman said, it is enabling legislation. It allows the county to change to a new voting method, ranked choice voting or approval voting, if they so desire, but it does not mandate the use of a new voting method. It's our first step to make this happen. So what is ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting is the ability to, it empowers voters to rank their choices on the ballot instead of being limited. Candidates running positive campaigns, and they gain broad support. And there's a clear threshold to win based on the number of seats running for that particular election. And as Delegate Kaufman said before, that it is used across the country in many jurisdictions, including Oakland, Minneapolis, and many people were aware of the recent New York City election and the elections in statewide Maine and Alaska. Maryland is ready for ranked choice voting, and I've shared this before with this delegation because we benefit from the over 20 years of improvements and updates to voting equipment. That means that our state equipment is RCV capable and ready to go, and we have local experts. So I urge the delegation to move forward and to join Greenbelt in Prince George's County, which just approved ranked choice voting for their elections. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all in Annapolis soon.
Thank you so much. Next is Ibrahim Alasha.
Hey, my name is Ibrahim Alash. I live in Silver Spring, and today I'm here to support the bill MC 126 and share my opinion on why we should have RCV in Montgomery County local elections. I'm a new voter in Maryland, but when I read about the county's 2022 elections, I discovered that the voting system seems to make it difficult for the people to choose their candidates they really align with and support. What are people supposed to do when they feel their favorite candidate probably won't win or may split the vote? We can as voters avoid having to vote strategically. I learned that some cities in the past had same issues, and even though their election and politics were different, they found similar solution in ranked choice voting. Specifically, Tacoma Park and most recently Greenbelt voted and adapt ranked choice voting to improve their voters' experience and improve their democracy. RCV gives voters the ability to better indicate their preference in elections so folks can actually vote their values without worrying about splitting their vote. It's simple. We rank the things every day. I urge the delegation to support Bill MC 126, enact ranked choice voting in Montgomery County elections for more democracy and better future in Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tamaya Denard with Represent Women.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tamaya Denard, and I am Programs and Partnerships Manager with Represent Women. And we are in support of ranked choice voting because we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, actually headquartered in Montgomery County. And our data bears that when ranked choice voting is present, women are 52% more likely to be elected to office. That's almost twice the norm in places where RCV is not present. In theory and in practice, ranked choice voting eliminates barriers women face in plurality, also known as winner-take-all elections, which creates more opportunities for women to run successfully. Our research finds that when women are running in an RCV race, they have better opportunities to win because, as gentlemen before me indicated, there's a less likelihood of splitting votes among candidates that you like. Oftentimes, a woman candidate is a favorite, but sometimes they're not given an opportunity because people think, well, I don't want to waste my vote because she can't win or they can't win. So this gives women a more fair shot at winning an election. It also provides incentives for candidates to find common ground because candidates are looking for votes from their opponents. So you're less likely to, sling mud and run dirty campaigns because you don't want to turn off, other voters. A lot of times with ranked choice voting, it takes the power a bit from political parties in deciding, who is a viable candidate and who isn't. It leaves it up to the voters, which is never, a terrible thing. Every year, Represent Women, we create a gender parity index where we measure we give each state a grade in accordance to how well they're faring with gender parity. And since its inception in 2013, Maryland has historically had a D. Last year, with the election of Angela Alsobrooks and some of the seats picked up in the State House, Maryland moved to a C. But I think Maryland will be a lot further along if we reform some of the policies and systems that remove barriers that women face when running for office. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up, Dr. Dorothy Manovich with the Women's Democratic Club.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to testify in favor of the enabling legislation for ranked choice voting. So I am co-chairing the Advancing Democracy Committee for the Montgomery County Women's Democratic Club, and we urge a favorable report of MC 126. I come here both as on behalf of WDC and also as an expert in civic engagement. I have a PhD in political science. And so both with my political science hat on and my WDC hat on, very, very much in support of ranked choice voting. So we at WDC support ranked choice voting for 3 reasons. 1, RCV makes elections more representative of voters' preferences. 2, RCV balances the scales for women and candidates from marginalized backgrounds, lessening some of the systemic bias that they face when they run for office. And 3, RCV disincentivizes negative campaigning that particularly turns people away from participating in politics. The purpose of democracy is to have a government that represents the will of the people. And when a candidate can win with a minority of the vote, which, as others have said, in Montgomery County can be sometimes less than 20% of the vote, we're failing to meet this bar. So ranked choice voting ensures that the candidate elected enters office with a mandate from the majority of the people that they represent. Moreover, as others have mentioned prior,
But my internet or your internet?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You froze for a minute.
Okay, well, I will just pick up where I left off and say that RCV lessens the systemic disadvantages that women and candidates of color face. And after implementing ranked choice voting, other cities like New York, St. Paul, and Minneapolis saw significant increases in the diversity of their city councils. And finally, ranked choice voting builds trust in government and invites more people into the political process. A very robust finding in political science is that this in civil politics really turns people off. And so MC 126 would go a long way in making our elections more representative and inviting more people in to participate.
Thank you so much. Next, Ms. Nina Taylor with the Center for Election Science.
Good evening, members of the delegation. My name is Nina Taylor, and I serve as the Chief Executive Officer for the Center for Election Science. We're a national, nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to voting reform, and we thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of MC 126. This legislation is a vital progressive step towards empowering voters by allowing them to potentially utilize approval voting in local races. Approval voting is straightforward. It allows voters to select all the candidates they like on their ballot. It gives voters a clear and more effective way to express their genuine support, eliminating the fears of vote splitting, spoilers, and assuring that the most broadly acceptable candidate wins. Communities like Fargo, North Dakota, St. Louis, Missouri, and even today in Utah Senate District 11 have implemented approval voting. A critical lesson learned from their experiences is that this method is easy to implement and highly cost-effective. We are proactively engaging Maryland election administrators, and we can confirm that approval voting is designed to be minimally disruptive to current election and infrastructure. Furthermore, we can highlight a major administrative advantage. Approval voting is fully compatible with risk-limiting audits, the gold standard for verifying election results. This ensures transparent, verifiable, and secure election process without placing undue burden on our administrators. We urge the delegation to consider approval voting as a powerful, simpler, and more cost-effective alternative that achieves the same goals in increased representation, reduced strategic voting, and eliminating vote splitting. Furthermore, voters love it. After multiple election cycles, polling show that voters strongly favor approval voting and want to see it expanded. By supporting this legislation, you're creating an environment where more voices and fresh perspectives can be heard while aiding in the voting reform ecosystem to rebalance considering alternative voting methods beyond RCV, thus ensuring a competitive environment and avoiding the inadvertent creation of a single method monopoly. So we thank you for your support in bringing approval voting, a cost-effective audit-compatible voting method to Montgomery County. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think without objection, I'll move on to the next panel in support before taking questions. And call Hal Ginsberg.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of MoCo Greens and in support of MC 126. We believe that ranked choice voting in particular offers a number of advantages. These include ensuring the legitimacy of the victor in one-winner races, such as county executive, more equitable representation for minority communities in legislative bodies, an end to the so-called spoiler effect, less negative campaigning, especially during primaries, and greater voter involvement. RCV does legitimize winners of races. For example, in New York City's crowded Democratic primary for mayor earlier this year, RCV proved that Zohran Mamdani was the preferred candidate of most Democrats and therefore legitimized him as the party's nominee. Here at home, by contrast, Executive Marc Elrich has twice won primaries with well under 50% of the vote. Marc has managed to pursue a progressive agenda, but without a clear mandate from the electorate, his ability to sway the legislature and get things done is limited. RCV ensures more equitable representation to minority communities in multi-member districts. The Montgomery Council includes 4 at-large members who represent the entire county. Currently in primaries in the general election, MoCo voters can vote for up to 4 at-large candidates. This means that a large coherent voting bloc can elect all 4, even if a significant minority of voters would prefer others. With RCV, winners would need just over 20% of the total votes cast. Since a candidate wins with just over 1/5 of the vote, minority communities can rally behind a favorite and elect them. The majority of voters could elect 2 members, but minorities would also gain representation. As Greens, we are sensitive to the charge that our candidates have taken votes from a candidate who might otherwise have prevailed. With RCV, voters can choose the candidate that they like best and then rank acceptable choices in order of preference. Thus, RCV allows voters to vote their conscience and increases the voices and viewpoints expressed in the political discourse. Finally, RCV clearly increases voter turnout and interest. We saw the last two New York City primaries, which used RCV, have had significantly greater turnout. Please support MC 1-26. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Bonnie Liu.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bonnie Liu. I've lived in Montgomery County for almost 20 years, first in Rockville and now in North Potomac with my husband, who grew up here, and we're very happy to be raising our kids here as well. When I was a kid and first learned about presidential elections, I assumed that whoever got the second most votes would become the vice president. When I found out that the runner-up actually gets nothing, it seemed profoundly unfair to me. No matter how many people had voted for the losing candidate, their votes and their opinions essentially didn't matter. As an adult, of course, I understand why things don't work this way, but I still believe that when elections are strictly a two-way contest, pitting one side against another, we lose sight of the fact that we're all on the same side. Voters should still have a voice even when they don't get their first choice. This is why I'm asking for your support of Bill MC 126, because ranked choice voting simply makes sense. Letting people vote in order of preference gives them the freedom to support all the candidates and ideas they find appealing, rather than just the one they think is most likely to win. This approach also encourages more candidates to run without fear of dividing support for others with whom they're closely aligned on the issues and inadvertently giving an advantage to someone whose ideas they're opposed to. This creates a larger, more diverse pool of candidates with a wider range of ideas and experience, which gives voters better representation and encourages candidates to seek consensus and compromise with their colleagues and their constituents. And as much as these things matter at the national level, they are exponentially more important and impactful at the local level, because the issues that people care most about are the ones that affect them and their community every day. When people know that their opinions on these issues truly count and are truly heard, they're more invested in and more satisfied with the outcomes. I believe two of Montgomery County's greatest strengths are its diversity and its sense of community. And ranked choice voting strengthens both of these things. When we can vote for our true preferences, we discover our common goals, and the more ideas and solutions we can bring to the table, the easier it becomes to accomplish them. Thank you so much for your time and support.
Thank you. Next is Michael Ball.
Thank you for allowing me to testify. I am 75 years old and have lived in Maryland for most of those years. As such, I remember the early steps leading to Spiro Agnew becoming Richard Nixon's vice president and subsequently resigning in disgrace over a bribery scandal. The story started with the 1966 Democratic primary for Maryland governor. The top three vote getters were George Mahoney with 30.21%, Carlton Sickles with 29.84%, and Thomas Finan with 27.31%. Which left Mr. Mahoney as the winner. He was a segregationist who ran on the model, your home is your castle, protect it. In the general election, which pitted Mr. Mahoney against Mr. Agnew, the Liberals voted for Agnew. Yes, that's right, the Liberals voted for Agnew, and of course, Agnew won. This election is seared in my memory as I was 16 years old at the time and had just started to pay close attention to politics and elections. It was clear to me and nearly everyone that the winner of the Democratic primary was not favored by a majority of voters. There had to be a better way. I now know the better way. If ranked choice voting had been used in the Democratic primary in 1966, either Mr. Sickles or Mr. Finan would have won and history would have been changed for the better. Even in more local elections, such as for Montgomery County Executive, it can be the case that voters would prefer any member of a certain group of candidates over others. Ranked choice voting would lead to the election of candidates whose views are the most consistent with the majority of voters. This in turn will make for a more representative government and more confidence among citizens in that government.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is Craig Kundrat.
Good evening, delegates. My name is Craig Kundrat. I'm a 9-year resident of Bethesda, a NASA retiree, a regular voter, and you don't know it maybe, but one of your favorite Montgomery County election judges. I have a request. Please support Bill MC 126. In particular, please support the ranked choice voting component. RCV is much superior to the plurality voting which we use today. It practically eliminates dishonest voting, where one votes for a candidate that is one of the top contenders rather than the candidate one really prefers. Moreover, RCV selects a majority winner. Recall the 2022 Democratic primary for county executive here in Montgomery County. Mark Elrich and David Blair both fell short of a majority, with both receiving around 39% of the vote. Elrich won by 32 votes, 32. RCV would have considered the 33,000 ballots that were not cast, that would have not been cast for Elrich or Blair. RCV would have enabled the instant runoff calculation to be done and the majority winner to be identified. There are many other points that can be made in favor of RCV, but we don't have time. So I will just conclude by noting that RCV is very well established. Australia and Ireland have been using RCV in national elections for over 100 years. Please give us better elections in Montgomery County by supporting this bill. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for representing us.
Thank you, and thank you for being an election judge. And now we have a panel in opposition, starting with Miss Amy Wayhoff.
Yes, my name is Amy Wyckoff. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. Here are two key problems with ranked choice voting, or RCV. Ballot exhaustion. This feature of RCV occurs when ballots are discarded in the second and subsequent rounds. This phenomenon happens, for example, when the voter marks only one or two candidates. One study concluded that RCV does not ensure that the winning candidate will have received a majority of all votes cast, only a majority of all valid votes in the final round of tallying. For example, in 2019, London Breed became the mayor of San Francisco by winning a majority of the 115,977 final eligible ballots compared to the 254,106 ballots that were originally cast. The time-consuming process took 9 rounds, and only 46% of the ballots were filled out with enough candidates to make it through all 9 rounds. RCV is fundamentally undemocratic. Let's look at the voter who refuses to vote for more than one candidate, even though there are 4 candidates to choose from. If his chosen candidate does not survive the first round, he has voted once. But another voter who ranks all 4 candidates got to vote in every round of the ranked choice runoff, effectively giving him 4 votes to the other voter's 1 vote. This aspect of RCV gives the lie to the Supreme Court standard of 1 person, 1 vote. Finally, several of my friends wrote emails to every delegate in opposition to this bill. Yet one delegate's intern responded that the delegate, quote, understands your frustration with the current voting system, unquote, as though my friend supported the bill. We expect our leaders and their assistants to read our letters carefully and not incorrectly misinterpret them. Thank you again.
Thank you. Next, we have Alice Heron.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Alice Heron. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. Before that, I lived in Oakland, California. I was there when ranked choice voting was first used and for the first decade thereafter. The concerns I felt then are still the same ones voiced today. UC Berkeley, Professor Dan Lindheim, said in the run-up to the last spring 2025 mayoral election, I would give RCV a D-. People still do not understand it. Fair vote, an RCV advocate said in the same TV news report, I put the quotes in the written testimony, there is still some confusion. We could do a lot more education. That endless call for more education 15 years in creates another barrier. the time and attention required to learn the new system and rank candidates. That burden discourages people who are very busy from participating. In Oakland's very first RCV mayor election, the mayor won, and she credited her second choice rankings in the victory. But she lasted one term, couldn't win re-election, so I don't know the coalition. In last spring's Oakland mayor election, the winning candidate made a video campaigning for lesser-known opponents. People were really confused about these motivations. The result, as Professor Lindheim puts it, a crisis in legitimacy. Many voters simply do not believe the winner truly deserved to win. As a Montgomery County resident who moved back home after living through all that, I respectfully ask you not to bring the same lingering confusion and distrust into these elections. Please, please oppose MC 126. Anyway, that's the end of my testimony. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Next is Richard Jurgena. Is he here? I don't see him. How about Kimblin Persaud?
I'm here.
Oh, great.
Good evening. My name is Kimblin Prasad. I'm the Executive Director of EPIC of MoCo, Empowering People and Communities. And I'm here to strongly oppose adopting ranked choice voting or approval voting in Montgomery County. This proposal is being sold as reform, but for communities EPIC serves, seniors, immigrants, Blacks, Latinos, homeowners, working class, apartment residents with limited English proficiencies, this is another form of disenfranchisement. Let me explain why. Ranked choice voting makes voting significantly more complicated. Under RCV, voters must understand how to correctly rank multiple candidates, avoid overvotes, and fill the ballot in a very precise way. When ballots are filled out incorrectly, they get thrown out. When voters don't rank enough candidates, their votes exhaust and stop counting in later rounds. And who loses their votes most often? It's people of color, seniors, new voters, and immigrants. Montgomery County is not capable, nor has it ever demonstrated the will to do voter education, especially what RCV is going to require. Cities that use RCV invest millions of dollars every year in multilingual voter education, sample ballots, community training, and public awareness campaigns. Meanwhile, Montgomery County could not deliver consistent interpreters at public hearings, failed to meaningfully inform residents during major planning and housing decisions, routinely leaves immigrant and working class neighborhoods saying we never knew, no one told us, or we didn't understand what we were voting on. If the county cannot educate residents on policy changes, there is no chance it will successfully educate them on complex, multi-step voting system. This is a costly experiment in the middle of a fiscal crisis. Montgomery County is facing hundreds of millions in projected revenue shortfalls, rising costs of Montgomery County public schools, warnings of recession, talk of property taxes. What we need to do is focus not on this, but more on education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends the panel. Questions from the delegation? Seeing none, that ends the hearing on this bill. And next we have Delegate Worman with MC6, Montgomery County Board of Elections membership. Delegate Worman?
Thank you so much, Chair Siegler, and thank you, Chair Polakovich-Carr and Chair Kramer. For the record, I'm Delegate Teresa Worman of District 16, and I'm requesting a favorable report for my very first local bill, MC 626. I'm excited to start closing out tonight with this bill to convert the two substitute members to regular members of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Before I get to that, I'd really like to compliment the board members and the staff led by Election Director Boris Brakovich for their professionalism, the transparency, and their commitment to democracy. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I love that our local board, I believe, has two of the youngest members in the board in board history. And they do great recruitment. The board as a whole does great recruitment for student volunteers and student election judges. Although I'm not on the committee of jurisdiction over election law, I've seen the board's work up close. From the 2022 primary election mail-in ballot canvass to the 2022 recount, to watching many of their meetings online over the last 2 years. And they're really, truly a model for how public bodies should follow. And they've been a leader among our local board of elections in our state. And I don't say that just because 4 of them, David Naiman, Ami Hober, Alex Vincent, and Larry Halloran, are my District 16 constituents, or because I serve in county government along with Daniel Koroma, or because I served on the Montgomery County Young Democrats board with Kina Aniam and Margie DeLeo. Despite our county board being a model for our local boards around the state, we're a little bit behind our 22 other local boards who since 2011 have converted their substitute members to regular members. These changes have been done by local bills over the years, and these bills have passed the General Assembly without opposition. The last 2 remaining counties with substitute members are Montgomery and Prince George's. My bill would only affect Montgomery County's board. You may be asking yourself, what exactly is a substitute member of the Board of Elections? In Montgomery County, substitute members have the same rights and privileges as regular board members, except that they can only vote when a regular member is absent or under the board's bylaws, they cannot serve as board officers. They attend all of the same meetings and including the ballot canvasses and receive the same salary as regular board members, although the president and secretary get slightly more than the other board members. So this bill would have a fiscal note of 0. The current substitute members, Margie DeLeo and Larry Halloran, are really hardworking, dedicated members and deserve the same voting rights as their colleagues. Margie is probably one of the youngest local board member in board history and brings a much needed perspective to the board. After board member Diane Dillon left the board earlier this year, then substitute member Alex Vincent by law became the regular member to replace her, and Larry joined the board as a substitute member, and he has a great background for the job, including having served as the Potomac Community Center Early Voting Center Director for many years. And the recent predecessors that were substitute members include Alex Vincent, Alan Banoff, Grace Rivera Oven, and David Naiman. They all gave outstanding community service as substitute members of the board. You're going to hear today from the rest of my panel from 4 board members who have served as substitute members of the board, including board president David Naiman, regular member now Alex Vincent, substitute member Margie DeLeo, and substitute member Larry Halloran. And then all of us will be available to answer any questions you may have. I'll turn it over to my panel.
Thank you very much, Delegate. Okay, next we have David Naiman from the Montgomery County Board of Elections.
Thank you, Chair Ziegler and Chair Kramer and Chair Polakovich Carr. For the record, my name is David Naiman. I am the president of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. I'm pleased to testify tonight on behalf of our unanimous board in favor of MC 626, which would convert the board's 2 substitute members to regular members of our board. Many thanks to Delegate Teresa Werman for introducing this bill and for allowing my 3 board colleagues and me who have served or are currently serving as substitute members to testify today. I'm the longest serving member of the current board, so let me give you some brief history on the composition of our board. In 1998, the General Assembly enacted legislation providing that every local board in the state except Prince George's County would have 5 members, 2 voting members plus 1 substitute member in the majority, and 1 voting member plus 1 substitute member in the minority. In 2007, a local bill was enacted adding 2 voting members to the Montgomery County Board, giving us in October of that year our current lineup of 3 voting members plus 1 substitute member in the majority and 2 voting members plus 1 substitute member in the minority. That change was to have more members available to divide the heavy workload of our board in the state's most populous jurisdiction. I started my service on the board in June of 2011 as a substitute member, and I served just shy of a full 4-year term in that role. I had no vote unless another Democrat was absent, and I couldn't be a board officer, but I worked as hard or harder as the voting board members and received the same pay other than the president, who was paid slightly more at that time. Several decades earlier, I had been a non-voting student member of the Montgomery County Board of Education, so you might consider me an expert on serving on a board in a non-voting capacity. As Delegate Warman said, since 2011, 22 local boards across the state have converted their non-voting substitute members to voting regular members. There's no good reason why we should continue to have substitute members on our board, and MC 626 would convert our substitute members to voting members in June of 2026. Because Montgomery County substitute members get paid the same as the regular members, this bill creates no state constitutional issues and no additional costs for either the state or Montgomery County governments. The fiscal note should be zero. Leaving myself aside, we've had some great substitute members during my tenure on the board, including Alan Banoff, Jackie Phillips, Grace Rivera Oven, and our 3 other witnesses today, Alex Vincent, Margie DeLao, and Larry Halloran. Each brings a unique perspective to our deliberations, has worked diligently, and made significant contributions to our board. And they deserve to vote. So I thank you for considering our views, and we urge you to give MC 626 a favorable report, and we'd be happy to answer any questions after my colleagues give their testimony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Alexander Vincent.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Chair Ziegler, Chair Kramer, Chair Polakovich Carr, and Delegate Warman, and members of the Montgomery County delegation. I'm grateful for giving me and my colleagues on the Montgomery County Board of Elections the opportunity to testify in support of Bill MC 626. As proposed, the bill would designate all members of the board as regular members, such that there would no longer be substitute members. Under current law, the Montgomery County Board of Elections comprises 7 members, 5 regular members and 2 substitute members. Substitute members are entitled to vote at board meetings, as Delegate Warman pointed out, only if a regular member of their respective political party is absent from the meeting in question. And as she also noted, substitute members are not eligible to be officers of the board. Now, I'm kind of in a rather unique position of having spent 4 years as a regular member of the board and 4 years as a substitute member. And I've never really understood the rationale for the distinction, because in my experience, the ability to vote at board meetings is the only real substantive difference between the 2 categories of members, apart from the officership. At least on the Montgomery County Board, in my own personal experience, substitute members are treated the same and are subject to the same expectations as regular members. For example, substitute members have access to the same information about the board's budget and internal operations as regular members. They are expected to attend, be adequately informed, and participate in board meetings to the same extent as regular members. They're allowed to propose, second, and debate motions at board meetings. They serve on the Board of Canvassers with all the same powers and duties as regular members. They're expected to, and in fact, in my experience, do, prepare just as thoroughly and work just as hard as regular members in connection with board meetings, early voting, and election day activities and canvass meetings. They are required to make the same financial disclosures to the Maryland State Ethics Commission and are subject to the same Maryland ethics laws and regulations to the same extent as regular members. Substitute members are paid the same compensation as regular members, with the exception of the board president and secretary. And perhaps most important, all 7 members of the Montgomery County Board and the board staff afford substitute members the same courtesy, attention, and respect as regular members. We are all colleagues working together to ensure that the election process in Montgomery County is conducted in an open, fair, efficient, and impartial manner. Whatever the historical rationale for creating substitute members of the local boards of elections in Maryland, there seem to be no compelling reasons for maintaining such a category in the future, when the only real distinction is the inability to vote unless a regular member of the same political party is absent from the meeting. So with that, Delegate Warman, I'm pleased to support this bill, and I'm grateful for your leadership in drawing attention to this important matter. I urge your colleagues to support the bill as well. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next, we have Ms. Margie DeLao.
All right, thank you.
Chair Ziegler, Chairs Kramer and Polakovich-Carr, members of the delegation. I am Margie de la O, and I'm a proud Germantown resident and one of the 2 substitute members of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Thank you, Delegate Teresa Warman, for introducing MC 6-26. I've served as a substitute member since 2023 on this part-time board, and as my colleague stated, substitute members have the same responsibilities and salaries as regular board members, but do not have a vote unless another board member of the same political party affiliation is absent. For context, I would like to share my own experience as a substitute board member. Being on the board requires all members to be flexible and manage their time effectively. However, I am immensely grateful for the opportunity to be part of this important work. In 2024 alone, I attended 27 board meetings, including a mix of 3 to 4 hour long monthly meetings and 8 to 9 hour long ballot canvases. I committed 10+ days of personal leave from my full-time job in 2024 to be present at these meetings. Ahead of our monthly meetings, I also spend hours poring over meeting materials and consider potential questions, gaps, and opportunities for discussion. I am diligent about being prepared for important agenda items. For example, when Montgomery College approached the board in 2023 and asked to add a Dropbox to each of its campuses, as the board's youngest member, I had a particular appreciation about how having Dropboxes at the Montgomery College campuses would encourage voter turnout by the busy students. I made the motion to approve this proposal and defended it during our meeting. After robust discussion, it passed in a bipartisan manner. But I did not have a vote as a substitute member. If passed, this bill would give substitute members a vote on all of this crucial work, and thus a proper voice on the undertaking of our county's elections and a recognition of our role in it. I urge you to give a favorable report on MC 6-26. Thank you all for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Lawrence Halloran.
Good evening, and thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Great, thank you. For the record, my name is Lawrence Halloran. I've been a substitute Republican member on the Montgomery County Board of Elections just since May. But as Delegate Werman suggested, I've been active in election law and recounts and election administration for over 40 years. That taught me the power to vote is central to our democracy. There's just no substitute for it. As has been said, and I won't repeat, there's just no reason to maintain this dated, inefficient, anomalous arrangement in the state's largest county. We have the largest workload. To do that work, we need to bring the full breadth of available experience and judgment to the board's work and to the board's votes. So I encourage you to favorably report this and look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the delegation? I think I saw Delegate Kaiser's hand up. No. Okay. Anybody? Seeing no questions, that concludes the bill hearing on MC 626.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And we will now move on to our last bill of the evening, MC 14-26.
Good evening. I'm Brenda Wolf, Vice President of the Montgomery County Board of Education. The board requested local bill MC 1426 in order to provide flexibility to the school system with regard to the school year calendar. Currently, all MCPS students must be in school for 180 days, and elementary and middle school students must attend for 1,080 hours, and high schoolers 1,170 hours in order to meet the minimal instructional time requirements in state law and regulation. With this bill, we are requesting that MCPS be given the option to meet the minimum instructional time requirement by complying with either metric, not both. Let me be clear. This is not an attempt to reduce the instructional time for students. In fact, our current calendar exceeds state requirements in both days and hours, as it has for at least the last 5 years. We have consistently provided more instruction than what Maryland requires. The real issue is the situation we faced last year. Severe winter weather forced MCPS to close multiple times. After our waiver request was denied, we had no choice but to extend the school year by 2 additional half-days in mid-June. Before those forced additions, the last day of school would have been a Friday. Instead, we ended the school year with 2 half-days on Monday and Tuesday, with many students absent and minimal learning occurring. Without the added days, we still would have far exceeded the state's minimal hours at every level. Yet, the law required us to add days anyway, days that provided little academic value and came at a significant financial cost. These unnecessary extensions cost the system approximately $1.75 million in personnel expenses. While most employees do not report on emergency closure days, some must, and those same staff had to work on the additional makeup days as well. For hourly employees, these became extra duty days, placing a substantial and avoidable burden on the school system. The outsized costs, combined with the minimal instructional benefit to students, is precisely why the board is asking for this legislation. It is not about cutting instruction. It is about preventing waste, avoiding meaningless calendar extensions, and ensuring that resources are spent where they actually benefit students. We are aware that Anne Arundel County Public Schools successfully advocated for a bill last season that permits the system to use a scheduling model that results in the school being in session for fewer than 180 days if the minimal hours requirement is met. There are additional provisions that eliminate the use of half-days and allow hourly employees the opportunity to make up lost wages that might result from the reduced number of school days. We did not pursue the same bill language because we do not intend to create a calendar that has less than 180 days. Our concern is the opposite. We do not want to be forced to add days that deliver no instructional value because of a technical requirement. Additionally, our contract with SEIU partners prohibits us from reducing duty days specified in the approved budget during a fiscal year. This means once our calendar is approved and our budget adopted, we cannot reduce the number of days for which our SEIU staff get paid. This contract protects our employees. This proposed legislation safeguards our budget. In short, this is a common sense, fiscally responsible, student-focused solution. It prevents unnecessary spending, avoids placing families into disruptive last-minute schedule changes, and ensures that instructional time is meaningful and not symbolic. We respectfully ask for your support of Bill Montgomery County 1426 to give MCPS the flexibility it needs and the community stability it deserves. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. And next we have Superintendent Taylor.
Thank you very much, distinguished chairs, and good evening to the members of the delegation. Thank you for having us. You've had a full evening. Thank you for letting us finish out with you. I'm Dr. Thomas Taylor, the superintendent of Montgomery County Public Schools. I'm here tonight to speak in support of MC 14-26 and in support of the Board of Education's request for an adjustment to the minimum instructional time requirements applicable to MCPS. As Ms. Wolf stated, the current law requires us to create a calendar with at least 180 days of instruction and at least 1,080 hours of instruction at the elementary and middle school level, with 1,170 hours of high school instruction. We have no problem with doing that, and we don't intend to stop. Implementation of this dual requirement is actually what our pain point is. Last year, as in many years in this area, We were forced to extend our school year due to inclement weather by 2 half-days in order to comply with the 180-day requirement. This cost the system almost $1 million a day. 2 early release days cost the taxpayers millions. Were these days meaningful? Did they actually have a positive impact on student learning? No, they did not. They were arbitrary. In fact, absenteeism was so high, our 2% improvement on chronic absenteeism for the year was cut in half in just 2 days. End of year testing complete. Field trips done. Promotion ceremonies and graduations celebrated. Many students and families did not see the benefit of adjusting their plans, whether it was summer vacation or summer camp or childcare, in order to send their students to school for an extra 2 days. So they didn't. I know it's natural to worry that kids won't get adequate instruction if you approve this change, or that our employees may be harmed financially. Our union contracts protect our employees, and if we have to make changes to make that contract language clearer, we are happy to do so. We are not looking to reduce the number of paid workdays for any of our employees, and we are not interested in making adjustments that negatively impact instruction. We are interested in making sure that all of our requirements are met, and that after 25 years of having this state requirement of having an either-or option, and we can attest that student learning will not be impacted, or at least not by that. Maryland has one of the most stringent minimum hour requirements for instructional time in the country. We exceed that requirement year after year, and we're proud of that. Given the fiscal outlook, both the county and statewide, every opportunity to optimize our funds must be explored. And with that, MC 14-26 will better enable us to be better stewards of public funds and to operate more efficiently without negatively impacting academic performance. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. And last but not least is Mr. Avi Silber.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Montgomery County Delegation. My name is Avi Silber, and I'm a biotechnology and music technology teacher at Northwest High School. I'm here to speak in support of MC 1426, which gives the Board of Education flexibility to require schools to be open for either a minimum number of days or a minimum number of hours instead of mandating both. As a science teacher, I believe in evidence-based decision-making. The evidence is clear. Learning isn't measured in seat time, it's measured in outcomes. Whether it's helping my students earn industry-recognized biotechnology credentials, or facilitating my students' composition, production, recording, mixing, and mastering of a song to represent our system's motto of being future-ready, these outcomes have dates and deadlines that we adjust to meet, and those deadlines don't always move when we have snow days. Right now, MCPS is bound by an arbitrary dual requirement. We must meet both a minimum number of days and a minimum number of hours. This creates unnecessary rigidity that doesn't serve learning. Here's a real example. When we have early dismissals for professional development or weather concerns, we still have to make up those hours, even if we've already met the required number of instructional days. The result? We add days to the calendar that feel like box checking rather than meaningful education. And these days occur after our credentialing exams and after our project deadlines. The work still happened in a more intense schedule, and we're left twiddling our thumbs. This bill doesn't lower standards, it creates flexibility. MCPS can still ensure adequate instructional time. They'll just have to have the tools to structure it more effectively. If we meet our hour requirements through a slightly different calendar schedule, why should we be forced to add arbitrary days? This flexibility also helps us respond to modern challenges, pandemic disruptions, extreme weather events, and mental health needs. When we're locked into meeting both days and hours, we lose the ability to adjust thoughtfully. MC 14-26 trusts our Board of Education to make evidence-based decisions about school operations. It recognizes that different approaches to the school calendar can achieve the same educational outcomes and sometimes better ones. I respectfully urge you to support MC 14-26. If I have to write a song about it, I will. Let's give our school system the flexibility to structure time in ways that serve learning, not just bureaucracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from the delegation? Yes, I see Delegate Kaiser.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to Board of Education member and our superintendent. I just want to ask a question. When I look at the legislation, we're doing this from Montgomery County to give certain flexibility. First part, have we tried this before? And I feel like we have, but why, as a local bill, and maybe it's because it failed as a state bill, I'm not sure. Why are we the only ones who need flexibility? So like that question and just some history on it as a statewide issue.
So would you like a response now, chairs, or at a later date?
I want it now.
Okay, certainly. Well, we're one of the few states that has an and in attached to their days and hours requirement. Just about every state in the union has a requirement for instructional time of some kind. The difference is whether it is a requirement of both or. I spent 25 years in Virginia prior to coming to Montgomery County, and the requirement was an or. I can speak confidently to the fact that there were a lot of things that impacted student learning. That wasn't one of them. For us, in terms of that flexibility, I think it would be great if the whole state had that level of flexibility. I think it would be very pragmatic. Candidly, I don't represent the whole state. I know that Vice President Wolf doesn't represent the whole state. We represent the students of Montgomery County. And certainly the motivations of Anne Arundel County for their bill was very different than the motivations that we have in MCPS. So even though the outcome may be very similar, I don't think that there's 100% alignment per se, and that this may not be a shared interest in other parts of the state like it is for us.
Okay, and thank you. I really didn't care about other states. I was only asking about other jurisdictions in Maryland. Thank you.
Chair Polakovich Carr.
Thank you, Chair Ziegler. And actually, I'll just say, Delegate Kaiser, I had the library pull the bill file, the history on this provision, and I'd be happy to share it. It goes back to at least 1916. It was when the 180 days requirement was put into effect. So it was back quite a ways. Okay, so for a couple things. First of all, thank you to our partners with the Board of Education and Superintendent Taylor for bringing this bill forward. One, it'd be very helpful if we, as a delegation, could get the data about the number of days and number of hours that the district has actually been in. You said you've met it or surpassed it for the last 5 years, but I would just be curious to actually get that data after this hearing. That'd be very helpful. Two, it strikes me as I look at this language and hear kind of the justification, which makes sense to me about why you're looking for more flexibility. But I guess I just wanted to ask tonight, should the delegation change the wording in this bill, I guess to be a little bit more clear to say, I guess in the bill that that the calendar that you're going to put forward at the beginning of the year is going to meet both, but really it's only in the case of, severe weather or some other unusual circumstances that you would be looking to seek this flexibility for either or. Does that meet the your goals with bringing forward this legislation? Because right now this is pretty wide open. It actually would allow you to just create a calendar that only meets one or the other. And I think that's way more flexibility than you're saying you actually need at this moment.
Our intention is not to present a calendar less than 180 days. Obviously, anything can happen, as we've learned over the last several years with the pandemic. But if the delegation felt compelled to make that kind of change, that does meet our objectives. And that definitely does give us some of the flexibility that we're looking for, and it does match our intent.
Okay, that is very helpful. And then I also just wanted to follow up on what Board President Wolf mentioned in her testimony about the SEIU contract, that if for some reason actually there's members of that union end up working less than the 180 days, they're still paid the full amount. So I just want to make sure I have this straight. So last school year, if it had been approved to not add on those 2 early release days at the end of the year, how would that have worked out for SEIU members?
It probably would have worked out pretty well for us, because we would have probably turned that into a training opportunity and still utilize the days. I don't think that there would have been any sit-at-home pay opportunities because we do have the need. And actually, one of the things that is an annual budget request is to reduce the number of no work, no pay days. So for us, we see that that there might even be an opportunity there that can be leveraged.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you very much. Seeing no further questions, that ends the bill hearing, and I'm going to turn it back over to Chair Polakovich-Carr to close us out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone who participated in tonight's hearings. As I mentioned at our first round of hearings last week, this is just the start for all of these bills. They have all been assigned to local committees within the House delegation, and those meetings will likely be starting in January. If you are interested in following the progress on any of these bills that we heard tonight or last week, you can. Best way to do that is to sign up for the email blasts from our delegation, and you can do that on our delegation website. Information is also posted on that website. But those meetings, as we further consider these bills, those work sessions and voting sessions are all public. But otherwise, folks can stay tuned for that once the legislative session starts next month. And I think with that, that is everything that we need to deal with tonight. I do just want to publicly thank our delegation administrator, Ralph Costas. He always does such a great job in pulling these hearings together and making sure everything goes very smoothly. So we're very appreciative, Ralph. Thank you. And with that, colleagues, we are adjourned.